You've probably heard of Robert Kiyosaki, right? His ideas about money have been stirring things up for decades. But what are the actual rules he lives by? We're going to distill the key principles from a recent, pretty candid interview to really understand his guide to wealth, which, let's be honest, can be a little controversial. So, Kiyosaki kicks things off with this bombshell of a quote. Think about it. This one sentence really encapsulates his entire worldview. It just throws a wrench in everything we're taught our whole lives, that getting good grades and having a great report card is your ticket to success. In the real world of money, he argues, that stuff is completely irrelevant. So why does he believe this? Well, it all boils down to what he calls the financial education gap. He's convinced our system has this fundamental flaw that basically sets most of us up for financial struggle right from the get-go. Okay, so here's the absolute core of his argument. Our schools? They're run by academics, people who are brilliant, book smart, but maybe not so money smart. So what do they teach us? They teach us how to be really good employees, not rich entrepreneurs. We learn all about history and science, but we learn absolutely nothing about the language of a financial statement. And this is where his whole story gets really interesting. It's all built around this idea of his two dads. On one hand, you have his poor dad, that was his actual father, a highly educated guy with a PhD who really valued job security and that steady paycheck. Then, on the other hand, you have his rich dad, his best friend's father, an entrepreneur who valued financial freedom and really understood how to make money work for him. We're talking two completely different playbooks for life. All right, so let's dig into what he calls the poor dad playbook. Kiyosaki says this is the path most of us are taught to follow. The one that sounds super safe, responsible, and it's just totally ingrained in our culture. Does this sound familiar? I bet it does. Go to school, get a good job, work your tail off, save your money, get out of debt, and of course, buy a house because it's your biggest asset. This is pretty much the script most of us are handed for life. But Kiyosaki argues this entire path isn't just outdated. It's actually a trap designed to keep you financially dependent forever. Okay, so if that's the playbook that keeps you stuck, what's the alternative? This is where we get to the really good stuff, the rich dad rules. And let me tell you, they basically turn all that conventional wisdom completely upside down. He breaks it all down into 3 simple but pretty radical rules. Rule number 1, the rich don't work for money. Rule number 2, they don't save money. And rule number 3, this is the one that gets everybody talking, your house is not an asset. Every single one of these is designed to punch a hole in what the poor dad playbook taught us. Now, to really get these rules, you first have to get on board with his definitions. They're super simple. For Kiyosaki, an asset has nothing to do with what it's worth on paper. It's all about cash flow. An asset puts money in your pocket. That's it, period. We're talking rental income, stock dividends, profits from a business. And you guessed it, a liability is the exact opposite. It's anything that takes money out of your pocket. It's an expense. A car payment, that streaming subscription, and yeah, according to this definition, even your home mortgage. Which, of course, brings us to the million-dollar question, the one that really challenges the entire foundation of middle-class wealth. Using these super strict definitions, is the home you live in really an asset? For Kiyosaki, the answer is brutally simple. It's all about one thing, cash flow. Your own home has a mortgage, right? And property taxes, insurance, maintenance, all that stuff takes money out of your pocket every single month. So in the rich dad world, that makes it a liability. An asset would be a rental property where someone else's rent check is covering all your costs and then some. Okay, but what about that don't save money rule? That sounds crazy, right? Well, he points to a very specific moment in history. Back in 1971, the US dollar was cut loose from the gold standard. Kiyosaki claims that from that moment on, the dollars stopped being money and it actually became debt. The whole system started running on borrowing. So saving cash, he says, is like saving a depreciating liability while the rich are out there using debt as a tool to get even richer. So let's put it all together side by side. You can really see the difference here. The poor dad playbook on the left is all about earning and saving. The rich dad playbook on the right, it's about creating and leveraging. The goal isn't to work for money, it's to acquire assets that work for you. And the tool to do it isn't saving, it's using debt in a smart, strategic way. And look, this isn't just some theory he cooked up. During the 2008 financial crash, while everyone else was freaking out, Kiyosaki says he went out and borrowed $300 million. Why would he do that? To buy up distressed real estate for pennies on the dollar. He used debt, other people's money, to scoop up cash-flowing assets at a massive discount. That is the rich dad playbook in action. But here's the thing. You can't just follow these rules like a recipe. Kiyosaki is really clear about this. It takes a completely different mindset, one that our school system, frankly, actively discourages. He actually breaks it down into what he calls the 4 intelligences. See, schools only care about the mental one, being book smart. But to be a successful entrepreneur, he says you need emotional intelligence to handle the risk and the fear, physical intelligence to actually get up and take action, and spiritual intelligence, a mission, a why that keeps you going when things get tough. And this quote, man, this really gets to the heart of that mindset difference. In school, what happens when you make a mistake? You get a bad grade. You're punished. But in the real world of money, Kiyosaki says mistakes are literally how you learn. A baby learns to walk by falling down, right? Well, an entrepreneur learns to invest by sometimes losing. It's the fear of making mistakes that paralyzes most people. All right, so we've laid it all out. You've got the 2 playbooks, the 2 different ways of thinking, and 2 very different potential outcomes. What Kiyosaki does is present a really clear choice. So let's just do a quick recap of these rich dad rules, just to nail it down. The goal? Stop working for money and instead create or buy assets that do the work for you. The tool? Use debt to acquire those assets. The mindset? Redefine what an asset and a liability are based purely on cash flow. It's a massive shift in thinking. At the end of the day, Kiyosaki's whole philosophy really just boils down to one question you have to ask yourself. The rules of the money game have definitely changed, but have yours? Are you still playing by a playbook that was designed for a game that might not even exist anymore?